I want to use S15 to talk about how that looks in implementation. Okay, so we're going to look at S15. I'm going to show you a few things, and then I'm going to give you some time to work on that. And so S15 is an evolved EPET program, because let's face it, just adopting one kind of pet was boring. So we're going to evolve this pet app. I'm going to download this real quick so I can open that file. And that's located right in the sandbox itself. Okay, so there is my file. And what you can see here is it still has the generic pet class. This is the same as what we talked about before. So we've got the pet, where we have a take turn method, and we have hunger and boredom and a name. And we have a feed pet and a play pet method as well. But now you can see I've got something interesting going on here. I've got classes that are child classes of that parent class. So I've got a fish, right? I've got a fish now, and you can see here it's got a type associated with it. That's an additional property. So in the initialization, I still have to give a name. Why? Because when I initialize a child class, it triggers the initialization of the parent. So it's saying, I'm going to make a pet fish, and as soon as I initialize it, look what it says right here. First line of the initialization is super dot initialization, and it passes that exact same argument back up. So super refers to the parent. So it's the super and the sub, basically, parent-child. Super with parentheses, dot, initialization, and I give it that. Why do I have to do that? Because the parent class requires that argument be given. So I have to give that argument here so that I can pass it back up, and then I give it the additional property of fish, or type, which is fish. Then I have a custom string. Now look, we have up here, we do not have a string method defined. We do, however, have a play method defined. What you'll notice here is that I'm using polymorphism, in that the fish is going to override that. So when I play with the fish, it still gives a +5 on the boredom, but instead of whatever it set up there, it's going to give a custom message. I splashed around with the name of the pet. So that's what the fish does when I play with it. And then I have another class for a dog class. And you can see here, it does the same thing, different type. Same thing here, it's got a string. And also, you notice these include the type, so I can see what it is. And then for the play pet, it says I played fetch with the dog. So that is how I'm using polymorphism and inheritance here. So now, here's my menu, right? If I choose adopt a pet, then it's going to ask, what do you want to adopt? And what is the pet name? And so if I choose fish, you can see it appends a pet fish with that name. If I choose dog, it appends a pet dog with that name. But now both of those have things in common, right? They both have, because they're based on CL Pet, they have all of these properties: name, hunger, boredom. They also have the take turn method. and the feed pet and play pet methods, although the play pet methods are overridden. They also both have a string method. So when I go through this, every time I want to take a turn, I can still go through every pet in my list of pets and call the take turn method, because they all have that method. If they didn't all have that method, then I would be in trouble. But since I defined that here in the parent class, I know they have that. Okay. Same thing here. Choose to feed a pet. I'm using the same thing as I did before, but now you can see here, I'm just using feed pet because they inherited that. So, and I can use play pet because we used an override on both of those to change up. But even in the original generic pet class, they both have feed pet and play pet. So that saves me from having any errors when I call that for the whole list. Okay, so there's all my take turns. And so the only thing that's not filled out again is this section. Now, there's two things I want you to do in this sandbox, and I want you to actually take the time to do them, because it's going to help you for the assignment, which we'll get to on Wednesday for this class. But I want you to, number one, finish menu option number 3, where you play with the pet. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to create a third type of animal. So I want you to create a whole class. You can use these as a model, but I want you to create another class. So maybe a cat, maybe a bird, maybe a lizard. I don't know, whatever kind of pet you think would be fun. And for an extra challenge, I would say let's try overriding the feed pet method for all the classes. So that's not that's a purely inherited method right now, but try overriding that in the child classes. Okay? So that is the sandbox. And it's just really, really good practice, because what you're doing is you're actually working with the parent-child classes, and you're actually implementing inherited methods versus overridden methods to see how they interacted differently with your program. So that is sandbox number 15. This is actually our very last sandbox. I know, sad. All of the other projects are just going to be a project per module. So this is the last sandbox. So we have project A16, A17, A18, which is it. We are that close to the end of the semester, folks.